ជាជួនអាដាមរដ្ឋមន្ត្រីក្រសួងអប់រំយុវជននិងកីឡាអាដាមលោកកន្ទាវអភិបាលខេត្តរាជធានីកន្លងទៅខ្ញុំបានផ្ដល់មតិខ្លះជូនទៅអាដាមរដ្ឋមន្ត្រីក្រសួងអប់រំពាក់ព័ន្ធជាមួយនឹងបញ្ហាការបើកសាលារៀនឡើងវិញកន្លងទៅយើងបានបិទសាលារៀនរបស់យើងសម្ដៅការពារចំពោះគ្រូបង្រៀនក៏ដូចជាកុមារាកុមារីសិស្សានុសិស្សរបស់យើងនៅក្នុងក្របខ័ណ្ឌទូទាំងប្រទេសដែលគឺជាការចាំបាច់ដើម្បីនឹងការពារអាយុជីវិតសម្រាប់គ្រូបង្រៀនយុវជនយុវនារីនិងកុមាររបស់យើងប៉ុន្តែអាស្រ័យដោយពិនិត្យឃើញថានៅក្នុងទូទាំងប្រទេសរបស់យើងជំងឺ Covid បានឆ្លងដោយដាច់ដោយដុំហើយប្រមូលផ្ដុំនៅតាមទីប្រជុំជនទីក្រុងទីប្រជុំជនភាគច្រើនហើយតំបន់ជនបទគឺហាក់ដូចជាបានកើតឡើងតិចតួចណាស់ហើយខេត្តខ្លះស្ទើរតែពុំមានទៀតផងប៉ុន្តែសាលាទាំងនោះយើងក៏បានបិទផងដែរដូច្នេះខ្ញុំស្នើឲ្យអាដាមហងជួននរិនរដ្ឋមន្ត្រីក្រសួងអប់រំយុវជននិងកីឡាធ្វើការពិភាក្សាជាមួយនឹងបណ្ដាខេត្តរាជធានីដើម្បីកំណត់បើកទីតាំងបើកសាលារៀននៅតាមទីតាំងមួយចំនួនដែលពុំមានជំងឺឆ្លងកើតឡើងយើងកំពុងចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងសម្រាប់កុមារនិងយុវវ័យអាយុពី12ឆ្នាំដល់18ឆ្នាំស្ថានភាពចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងមកដល់ពេលនេះក្នុងចំណោមកុមារនិងយុវវ័យដែលមានអាយុពី12ទៅដល់15ឆ្នាំប្រមាណ2លាននាក់យើងចាក់បានជាង1លាន5សែននាក់រួចស្រេចទៅហើយបន្ថែមលើនោះដោយសង្កេតឃើញថានៅតាមសាលាជនបទរបស់យើងដែលពុំមានការឆ្លងយើងមានលទ្ធភាពបើកនៅសាលារៀននោះដោយមិនរងចាំថាទូទាំងប្រទេសត្រូវតែបើកឬក៏ខេត្តមួយត្រូវតែបើកឬស្រុកមួយត្រូវតែបើកទាំងអស់នោះទេយើងគួរជ្រើសរើសនៅតាមភូមិតាមឃុំដែលពុំមានការកើតនៅជំងឺឆ្លងនេះហើយកុមារាកុមារីរបស់យើងបានចូលសិក្សាដោយរក្សានៅគម្លាតសុវត្ថិភាពរក្សានៅវិធានការសុខាភិបាលចាំបាច់ឌីដើម្បីឲ្យកុមារាកុមារីរបស់យើងបានចូលរៀនយើងកំពុងស្ថិតនៅក្នុងស្ថានភាពដ៏លំបាកប្រសិនបើយើងបន្តបិទតទៅទៀតដោយមិនបានពិនិត្យមិនបានញែករវាងកន្លែងដែលឆ្លងនិងកន្លែងដែលមិនឆ្លងនឹងអាចនាំទៅដល់សិស្សបោះបង់ចោលសាលារៀនឬអាចឈានទៅដល់សិស្សភ្លេចអក្សរជាដើមម្យ៉ាងទៀតទោះបីជាយើងបង្កើតការរៀនពីចម្ងាយតែហៅថារៀនតាមអនឡាញនោះប៉ុន្តែជនបទរបស់យើងកុមារក្រីក្ររបស់យើងពុំមានលទ្ធភាពនិងពុំមានអ៊ីនធឺណិតនៅតាមសាលារៀននោះទេដូច្នេះហើយបានជាខ្ញុំស្នើឲ្យអាដាមរដ្ឋមន្ត្រីក្រសួងអប់រំយុវជននិងកីឡាពិភាក្សាជាមួយអាដាមលោកជំទាវអភិបាលខេត្តរាជធានីធ្វើការពិនិត្យ ដើម្បីនឹងជ្រើសរើសសាលាដែលត្រូវបើកឲ្យរៀនទាំងថ្នាក់បឋមសិក្សានិងមធ្យមសិក្សាកម្រិត1កម្រិត2នៅតាមជនបទតែពុំមានការឆ្លងដោយត្រូវអនុវត្តនៅវិធានការសុខាភិបាលសម្រាប់កន្លែងទីប្រជុំជនដែលមានការឆ្លងឬមានការឆ្លងតិចយើងអាចអនុញ្ញាតពិនិត្យឲ្យមានការរៀនទៅបន្តទៅតាមអនឡាញឬរៀនទៅតាមស្ថានភាពគូផ្សំរវាងការរៀនដោយផ្ទាល់ដោយរក្សានៅកម្រិតសុវត្ថិភាពនិងការរៀនតាមបែបចម្រុះដែលវិស័យនេះផ្នែកនេះខ្ញុំបកស្រាយទៅលើបញ្ហាបច្ចេកទេសនោះទេដោយសារនៅទីក្រុងនិងទីប្រជុំជនមានលទ្ធភាពច្រើនដែលមានអ៊ីនធឺណិតអាចរៀនសូត្របានយើងអាចគូផ្សំគ្នារវាងកន្លែងដែលឆ្លងតិចហើយនៅពេលដែលកុមារីយុវវ័យរបស់យើងបានចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងគ្រប់គ្រាន់ហើយនោះយើងអាចឈានទៅដល់ការបើកសាលារៀនរបស់យើងឡើងវិញហើយការបើកនេះតែត្រូវធានានៅសុវត្ថិភាពគម្លាតសុវត្ថិភាពនិងវិធានការសុខាភិបាលដែលយើងត្រូវខិតខំដោះស្រាយបញ្ហានេះហើយកន្លែងដែលមានការឆ្លងច្រើនក៏សូមបន្តការរៀនទៅតាមអនឡាញការរៀនពីចម្ងាយខ្ញុំស្នើឲ្យរកគ្រប់វិធានការដើម្បីឲ្យសិស្សបានរៀនដោយបើកសាលាផ្ទាល់រៀនដោយផ្ទាល់ដោយសម្ដៅឆ្ពោះទៅរកជនបទដែលពុំមានជំងឺឆ្លងនិងការបើកដែលរៀនមានលក្ខណៈចម្រុះនៅតំបន់ដែលមានការឆ្លងតិចហើយមានការចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងគ្រប់គ្រាន់យើងមានអ្នកចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងតែតាមស្ថិតិដែលទទួលបានពីខេត្តបណ្ដាខេត្តចំនួនមនុស្សដែលត្រូវចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងមានរហូតដល់12,661,497 នាក់ដែលក្នុងនោះបែងចែកជាមនុស្សអាយុ18ឆ្នាំឡើងចំនួន10,636,512 នាក់និងកុមារីនិងយុវវ័យរបស់យើងចំនួន2,29,985 នាក់ដែលជាស្ថិតិខេត្តផ្ដល់ឲ្យឥឡូវកុមាររបស់យើងបានចាក់វ៉ាក់សាំងប្រមាណជាជិត1 លានកន្លះរួចស្រេចទៅហើយគិតត្រឹមថ្ងៃទី29យើងចាក់បាន1,453,021 នាក់ស្មើនឹង71.58%មិនយូរប៉ុន្មានគឺសិស្សរបស់យើងនឹងទទួលបានទាំងដុសទី1និងដុសទី2តែពួកគេអាចមានភាពផ្សាំជាមួយនឹងវ៉ាក់សាំងគ្រូបង្រៀនរបស់យើងក៏ទទួលបាននៅវ៉ាក់សាំងគ្រប់គ្រាន់ទាំងដុសទី2ដុសទី1ដុសទី2ហើយនិងដុសជំរុញទៀតផងខ្ញុំគិតថាសាលារៀននៅជនបទសូម្បីតែបឋមសិក្សាក៏យើងអាចដែលឲ្យក្មេងមិនទាន់ដល់អាយុ12ឆ្នាំក៏អាចចូលរៀនបានដែរព្រោះនៅទីនោះពុំមានការឆ្លងជំងឺទេខ្ញុំសូមស្នើឲ្យមានការគិតគូរតាមរបៀបបត់បែនហើយអនុវត្តតាមការជាក់ស្ដែងនៅតាមខេត្តនីមួយៗកន្លែងណាមានលទ្ធភាពបើកបានគឺបើកកន្លែងណាដែលពុំមានលទ្ធភាពបើកគឺយើងឲ្យរៀនពីចម្ងាយកន្លែងណាមានលទ្ធភាពអាចបើកឲ្យមានការរៀនបែបចម្រុះរវាងការរៀនដោយផ្ទាល់និងការរៀនពីចម្ងាយក៏សូមពិនិត្យបើមិនដូច្នោះទេ យើងនឹងស្ថិតនៅក្នុងស្ថានភាពមួយបាត់បង់ឱកាសសម្រាប់កុមារយុវវ័យនិងយុវជនរបស់យើងភាពសម្បាននឹងកំពុងកើតនៅរាជធានីភ្នំពេញនិងខេត្តកណ្ដាលរាជធានីភ្នំពេញការឆ្លងមានចំនួនធ្លាក់ចុះហើយអ្នកដែលបានឆ្លងក៏មិននាំទៅដល់ជំងឺធ្ងន់ធ្ងរនោះទេអត្រាស្លាប់ក៏មានការថយចុះដូច្នេះចំណុចនេះគឺជាចំណុចវិជ្ជមានមួយសម្រាប់ការបើកឡើងវិញនៅសង្គមសេដ្ឋកិច្ចនៅទូទាំងប្រទេសហើយក្នុងនោះក៏មានវិស័យអប់រំរបស់យើងផងដែរដូច្នេះហើយខ្ញុំសូមឲ្យអាដាមរដ្ឋមន្ត្រីក្រសួងអប់រំយុវជននិងកីឡាដឹកនាំការពិភាក្សាលើបញ្ហានេះឲ្យបានហ្មត់ចត់ដើម្បីឈានទៅបើកសាលារៀនឡើងវិញហើយបំផុតបើកសាលារៀននៅតំបន់ដែលពុំមានជំងឺឆ្លងជាពិសេសគឺនៅជនបទដើម្បីជៀសវាងនៅកុមារជនបទរបស់យើងคล้ายទៅជាជនរងគ្រោះពីជំងឺ COVID ក្នុងពេលដែលជនបទពុំមាន COVID ដូចនៅទីក្រុងទីប្រជុំជននោះទេយើងត្រូវអនុវត្តដោយភាពឆ្លៀសវៃនិងបត់បែនទន់ភ្លន់និងគ្រប់គ្រងសភាពការឲ្យបានដើម្បីយើងពន្លឿនទៅដល់ការអភិវឌ្ឍប្រទេសជាតិជាពិសេសជំរុញការបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលធនធានមនុស្សបើមិនដូច្នោះទេកុមាររបស់យើងនឹងបោះបង់ចោលសាលារៀនហើយក៏អាចឈានទៅដល់ការភ្លេចអក្សរក្នុងពេលដែលពួកគេមិនបានរៀនរាប់ទាំងការរៀនពីចម្ងាយផងដែរដោយសារតែស្ថានភាពជនបទពុំមានអ៊ីនធឺណិតនិងពុំមានលទ្ធភាពគ្រប់គ្រាន់ដើម្បីនឹងទទួលបាននៅការរៀនតាមអនឡាញនោះទេសូមអាយដាមលោកជំទាវធ្វើការពិនិត្យដោះស្រាយបញ្ហានេះហើយលើកជាសំណើដើម្បីស្នើសុំយោបល់សម្រាប់ជាផ្លូវការតាមក្រោយមកដល់រូបខ្ញុំសូមអរគុណ
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged the Minister of Education to start reopening schools as soon as possible. He wants to start with schools in areas with low rates of COVID-19 infection. The Prime Minister delivered a speech on Tuesday morning, pointing out that most rural areas across the kingdom have very few cases of the coronavirus. He says the Ministry of Education should start reopening their schools to avoid student dropouts, which he says could lead to a more serious situation in the country. The Prime Minister and provincial governors. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has our top story.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has suggested that Minister of Education Hang Chun-narong reopen schools wherever it is safe to do so. He has emphasized that with the duration of school closures nationwide, it could be a more serious problem for the country when students are not learning at all. Teachers are providing workbooks or home assignments, often with only part-time parental supervision. The Prime Minister says this leaves him feeling fearful for the future of the kingdom's children. He says they might even forget the alphabet if their schools remain closed for much longer. He's now urging the Minister of Education and governors to have a serious look at when schools can reopen safely.
I think rural schools, even at the primary level for children under 12, can go back to school because there are no infections. I suggest flexible thinking and practical implementation of the preventative measures in each province when it comes to reopening schools. Where it is possible to open a school, then let it reopen, while for places where it is not possible, then students should learn remotely or online. Where possible, let there be a mix of face-to-face learning and distance learning, otherwise our young children will be in a dangerous position. The majority of the population of Phnom Penh and Kandal are already protected against COVID-19. Infections in Phnom Penh are declining, and those who become infected do not develop serious illness. Mortality has also decreased. So this is a positive point for the reopening of the socio-economic sector across the country, including the field of education.
ភាពសម្បាននឹងកំពុងកើត
As of Monday, over 1.5 million children between the ages of 12 and 17 have already received at least their first dose of Sinovac. More than 300,000 have been fully vaccinated. The Prime Minister says booster shots will also be given to children to give them even more protection against the virus. An additional 2 million doses of Sinovac arrived in the kingdom from China on Tuesday morning. Reyes Soco, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Teachers and lecturers have welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement. Both public and private school teachers and university lecturers have been working from home for well over 6 months and say they're desperate to get back to in-person learning. EAC News reporter Johnny McCune has that story.
Schools and universities shut their doors in March to stem the spread of the virus. Although universally deemed a good idea, it has led parents to having to homeschool, meaning one parent may have had to actually forfeit a much-needed source of income. Meanwhile, teachers have become keyboard warriors, tirelessly working from home as they teach online. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. The National Paediatric Hospital is administering booster shots to public teachers who have welcomed the Prime Minister's speech on Tuesday.
For me, I think it's good because we all want the students to attend school physically so that they can meet other students, exchange ideas and learn. However, like my child, he has stayed at home alone and it's hard for him to exchange ideas with other students. So it's better if the schools go back to normal.
He believes reopening the schools is the best way forward to get students back to some sense of normality.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Despite reports to the contrary, British nationals arriving in Cambodia do qualify for alternative state quarantine. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has informed the British Embassy that passengers from the UK can book their own quarantine directly at one of the 4 approved hotels. In an official note to the British Embassy, the Interministerial Committee to Combat COVID-19 has clarified that British nationals do not need to stay at the OK Boutique Hotel on Street 174 in Phnom Penh, but can book their quarantine directly at one of the capital's 4 ASQ hotels. Those are Sofitel, Soka Hotel, Courtyard by Marriott Phnom Penh, and Raffles Hotel Le Royal. There was some confusion when the ASQ pilot project first launched, with British nationals apparently being told they could not book their 14-day quarantine stays directly and had to stay at the OK Boutique Hotel. Alternative state quarantine was launched last month and allows incoming passengers to pre-book their 14-day stays. Those passengers with no prior bookings are being sent to quarantine hotels at random on arrival at Phnom Penh International. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. The 2 dead bodies recently discovered in Phnom Penh are believed to be foreign nationals. Locals in Cam Ranh village in the capital's Kambul district told EAC News that no locals have been reported missing in recent months and say the clothes found at the scene don't look familiar either. The area where the bodies of the man and woman were found this past week is surrounded by factories. EAC News reporter Reyes Soco visited the scene of the crime.
An area contained trash and plastic bottles everywhere. 2 shallow holes dug out of the ground, with some human remains even left behind. This is how the crime scene looks after a police forensic investigation. The male victim, believed to be between 45 and 60 years old, had gunshot wounds. The female victim, estimated to be around 35 to 40 years old, had a fractured skull. Kambol District Deputy Police Chief Chim Savot says they are treating it as a homicide that appears to have happened about 6 months ago. EAC News spoke to the village chief. Sue Sauron says no one has been reported missing in the area or even nearby.
I think these people buried were not from our village because no one has lost a family member. From the clothes that they were wearing, They don't look like they're from here. They must be from a very far place. This is the first time it's happened in my village. It never happened before.
Local warehouse owner Haim Suvan says there has been a lot of foot traffic here in recent months, with the area popular for dope smokers.
Many people, but all of them are farmer. Okay. Yeah, many people, but not the business and just a farmer come and across to do the farm, like many farm here.
Kamriing village resident Mias Rorn says she's scared about what's happened with her home being just along the main road. She says she's seen people in cars going to the place where the bodies were found.
I have been living here for 3 years and never been scared until this happened. Now we, my family members, are so afraid at night that we don't even have the courage to go out to the toilet. We also go to sleep early now, before the dead bodies were found. We normally go to bed at around 8 to 9 in the evening, but now we all go to sleep at 7.
With the crime scene investigation complete, police are now hunting for those responsible. The bodies were buried on the side of a small road, around 200 meters away from the main road. As you can see here, the area has already been cordoned off by the investigating team. But 3 big questions will need answering. Who were these people? What exactly led to their deaths? And why were they just murdered? Reyes Soko, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. The United States has completed its controversial and shambolic withdrawal from Afghanistan. 20 years of effective occupation came to an end in the early hours of Tuesday morning as the last U.S. military plane left Kabul's Hamid Karzai International Airport. The U.S. leaves a shattered nation back in the hands of the very group it went in to destroy. Major General Chris Donahue, commander of the 82nd Airborne Division, photographed as he stepped aboard a C-17 transport plane. He was the last U.S. service member to leave Afghanistan. The flight ends a hasty and humiliating exit, with Washington and its allies carrying out a massive but chaotic airlift over the past 2 weeks. Tens of thousands of Afghans who helped Western countries and might have qualified for evacuation have been left behind. Across Kabul, gunfire rang out in celebration at news that the U.S. withdrawal had been completed. Soon after the final U.S. military flight left, members of the Taliban walked across the tarmac, telling reporters that everything will be fine. But the airport has been left with no air traffic control and remains vulnerable to rocket attacks by Islamic State. All civilian aircraft are being advised to stay well clear of Afghan airspace, at least for the time being. That advisory puts a big question mark over U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's remarks in Washington that the U.S. would continue working with its international partners to get its remaining civilians and Afghan associates out of the country.
We will work to secure their safe passage. This morning, I met with the foreign ministers of all the G7 countries, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Canada, Italy, Japan, as well as Qatar, Turkey, the European Union, and the Secretary General of NATO. We discussed how we will work together to facilitate safe travel out of Afghanistan, including by reopening Kabul's civilian airport as soon as possible. And we very much appreciate the efforts of Qatar and Turkey in particular to make this happen. This would enable a small number of daily charter flights, which is a key for anyone who wants to depart from Afghanistan moving forward. We're also working to identify ways to support Americans, legal permanent residents, and Afghans who have worked with us and who may choose to depart via overland routes.
Back in Kabul, Taliban commander Kari Samullah says the group will do its best to establish a safe atmosphere in the country and that together the people of Afghanistan will build a new homeland. On the streets there is fear, though, with memories still fresh of the Taliban's previous regime, during which music was banned, women were not allowed to work, and girls were barred from education. Public executions were also commonplace. The United Nations says the country is facing a dire humanitarian crisis, cut off from foreign aid amid a drought, mass displacement, and the pandemic. A chaotic occupation may be over, but an extremely uncertain future has begun. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. And now for a look at some other news making headlines around the world this Tuesday, the 31st of August. More than 1 million people across Louisiana and Mississippi could be in the dark for weeks as officials take stock of the damage from Hurricane Ida. Widespread power outages reached as far north as over 250 kilometers from where the hurricane made landfall. Ida hit Louisiana on Sunday as a Category 4 storm, packing winds of 240 kilometers an hour. It was the 5th strongest to ever hit the U.S. mainland, exactly 16 years after Hurricane Katrina. At least 4 people have been killed. New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell expects that number to grow as over 5,000 National Guard members launch a search and rescue operation. The good news for the city is that its flood defenses, strengthened in Katrina's aftermath, have done their job. Governor John Bell Edwards says the levees have performed magnificently, but the damage is still catastrophic. An equally bad time being experienced by Mexico, with dramatic footage capturing the intensity of Hurricane Nora. Locals told Reuters the house had already been evacuated before it collapsed. Nora has now weakened to a tropical storm and has claimed the life of at least 1 person. In other parts of the region, towns have been flooded, trees have been uprooted, and power lines are down. Nora is expected to continue weakening as it moves north-northwest over the next few days. And a major step forward for the health of the planet. Leaded petrol has been eliminated after the world's last remaining stocks were used up last month. The UN's Environment Programme has been working for the past 19 years to end the use of the poisonous substance that poses major health and environment risks. Algeria was the last country on Earth to be using it and exhausted its final stocks in July. The UN says leaded petrol has been contaminating air, soil, and drinking water. It's been linked to heart disease, stroke, and cancer. Some studies even show it harms brain development, especially in children. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called its eradication an international success story.
Ending the use of leaded petrol will prevent more than 1 million premature deaths each year from heart disease, strokes, and cancer. And it will protect children whose IQs are damaged by exposure to lead.
He says the elimination of leaded petrol shows what can be achieved through collaboration and called for similar initiatives towards emissions-free transport and tackling climate change. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Cristiano Ronaldo spent Monday training with Portugal ahead of their World Cup qualifier against Ireland on Wednesday. The training session came a day after Ronaldo reportedly completed a medical in Lisbon ahead of his return to Manchester United. Juventus and Man United have yet to actually confirm the deal, but reports say Ronaldo has agreed to personal terms for a 2-year contract with the Premier League giants. An announcement is expected later on Tuesday, with the Premier League's summer transfer window closing in the early hours of Wednesday morning, Cambodian time. Man United are rubbing their hands in glee at having one of their biggest ever stars coming back. Ronaldo won 8 major trophies at United between 2003 and 2009 before sealing a then world record $110 million move to Real Madrid. With the English League paused for the international break, Ronaldo is expected to play his first game back at Old Trafford when United host Newcastle next Saturday. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. A whole host of world records fell at the Paralympic Games in Tokyo on Monday. Swimming and powerlifting were the standout events. In the pool, China's Ma Ji smashed the world record in the final of the women's 200-meter individual medley SM11 category, just ahead of her teammate Kylie Wen. Italy's Carlotta Gilli also set a new world record in the women's 200-meter medley SM13 final, swimming far clear ahead of the field. More records went under in the men's freestyle 4x100 relay, with Australia's Ben Popham winning an impressive final stretch to win gold for his team. The powerlifters also produced two outstanding performances. Mongolia's Sodnompilji Engbaya lifted a massive world record of 245 kilograms to win gold in the men's 107-kilo final. Nigeria's Folashade Olawafemayo also showed her strength with a new world record of 151 kilos to win gold in the women's 86-kilogram final. The 2020 Paralympic Games end on Sunday. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Andy Murray was the big first seed to fall at the US Open. He managed to push Stefanos Tsitsipas to a fifth set, but lost that last set 6-4 to crash out of the tournament. But the biggest headline out of Flushing Meadows on Monday wasn't what was happening on court, but the fact that there were actually people watching it. The pandemic has kept fans away for 2 years, but the pavements and stands of Flushing Meadows were brimming with spectators again this week, even if they had to show proof of vaccination in order to attend.
When we got our tickets, I just about cried, just thinking about being back. But I feel outside, I feel safe, and the vaccine thing was huge to feel like it's okay to be here.
My kids are tennis players, so they love the game. They've been playing for a while, and we just come as a family. It's good for the kids, and we kind of enjoy it. It's kind of like a mini vacation night, in a sense, so we kind of use it.
It's fantastic. We didn't stop playing tennis, but we don't play at this level. So we like to come and see if we can improve our game, but it feels great. Great to see people back, and it's just the energy of this place. It is a very happy place.
A mask mandate has not been enforced by the US Tennis Association, but spectators are being advised to wear one if they attend a packed stadium or find themselves in a crowd, a recommendation which everyone seems happy to go along with. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. We've all been taken for a walk by a dog tugging on their leash, but in Croatia they've turned this into an annual event with a race for dogs and their owners. There were all sorts of shapes and sizes, dogs as well as their owners. The traditional end-of-summer canine race is hosted by one of Croatia's few dog-friendly beaches. The event includes a short run and swim, although not every dog was keen to jump in. After the splashing around of the biathlon, it was time for the next event, a competitive ice cream speed eating and beer drinking contest, yes, for the dogs. 13 owners and their best friends took part in this year's competition, with numbers down because of the pandemic. This year's race was won by Antonia Perka with a 2-year-old rescue, Nando. The ice cream competition was won by Jagoda, with her owner saying she wasn't at all surprised as her pet eats everything, even from garbage bags that have been left open. EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, 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 wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. EARTS Cambodia's audience is growing. Our YouTube channel now has 150,000 verified subscribers. To mark the milestone, we've received the Silver Creator Award from YouTube, given to channels with over 100,000 subscribers. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki says the award celebrates eArts Cambodia's hard work and incredible achievement. She says not only has eArts Cambodia brought a unique voice and style to the world, but has also created valuable connections and built a community along the way. The next milestone we're going for is 1 million subscribers, and we'd really like that Gold Creator Award. So if you're not already a subscriber, head to www.youtube.com/eArts Cambodia. Subscribers get all the latest breaking news and updates from Cambodia in English. We'll see you there. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Cambodia's number of Delta variant cases has jumped to 1,752. 218 new cases of the variant have been confirmed by the Ministry of Health. Phnom Penh has most of the cases, with every province infected, save for Croce and Kep. Despite the climb in cases, Cambodia's WHO representative, Dr. Lee Ailan, says the overall COVID-19 situation in the kingdom is getting better due to the success of vaccinations. EAC News reporter Johnny McCune has the details.
82 new cases of the COVID-19 Delta variant were confirmed in Phnom Penh over the weekend. This is one of the biggest jumps the capital has recorded so far, as 225. Minister of Health, Mom Bun Hen, has called on people to increase their vigilance against the Delta variant. Because of it, the capital and some provinces have continued to implement restrictions on alcohol sales, gatherings of more than 15 people, and temporarily closing high-risk businesses. But as the Delta variant continues to spread, WHO representative to Cambodia, Dr. Lee Ailan, has observed a decline in the overall number of the COVID-19 cases within the country. She says the combined efforts of implemented public health and social measures, together with the success of the government's vaccination program, have contributed to the improvement of the COVID-19 situation in the kingdom. She does stress, however, that the Delta variant is a threat, as it is at least twice as transmissible as the original virus. Johnny McCune, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Booster shots for public school teachers are underway. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport started the rollout on Monday morning as it prepares for the reopening of secondary schools, possibly as early as October. Cambodia's vaccination rate has already crossed 81% of the targeted 10 million adult population who have been fully inoculated. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has the details.
Public school teachers in Phnom Penh gather at the National Pediatric Hospital for the third booster shots of COVID-19 vaccine. They are being administered AstraZeneca shot, with them having been fully vaccinated with either Sinopharm or Sinovac. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports has organized a whole week for vaccinating its personnel in the capital. The ministry is working towards a school reopening in the last quarter of the year. Part of that plan involves the vaccination of children aged between 12 and 17. Almost 75% of the 2 million target have received at least their first dose. The royal government has been lauded for its fast vaccination of both children and adults. The kingdom has already vaccinated over 66% of its total population of 16 million. Ministry of Health spokesperson Dr. Orvanden says an additional 2 million doses of Sinovac will arrive soon. These will be added to the over 25 million doses of different vaccines the kingdom has already received, both as orders and donations. Dr. Van Dien says government is hoping to achieve the 10 million adult target by the end of September. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Officials on Koh Rong have clarified that vaccination cards are not needed to visit the popular island. They were responding to social media reports claiming that locals were being asked to provide proof of vaccination on arrival. Koh Rong's city governor, Nuan Buntol, says all tourists, vaccinated or not, are welcome to visit the island, but they must adhere to the health ministry's safety measures. The governor says, following the nationwide vaccination campaign, he has seen an increase in the number of tourists visiting Koh Rong, both local and foreign. He says there have been a few incidences of ferry companies not allowing unvaccinated individuals to board, but says Koh Rong authorities will be holding a meeting with tourist boat associations to discuss future vaccination requirements. But for now, proof of vaccination is not required. Governor Nuan Buntol says increasing numbers of tourists can easily help the local economy bounce back, and he's happy to welcome everyone as long as they follow health measures against the spread of COVID-19. Tourists are being reminded to always wear a mask, maintain social distancing and proper hygiene while enjoying themselves on the island. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Police believe the two decomposing bodies found by a local resident in a remote area of Phnom Penh on Friday were murdered about 6 months ago. The bodies are believed to be of a man and a woman.
The bodies were discovered on Friday evening by a farmer in Cam Ranh village when he went out looking for